He was an elderly shoemaker who literally put on a white sheet to scare his apprentice, because his apprentice had been telling ghost stories to his children and scaring them, and he wanted to get his own back. So this was just a workplace prank that had disastrous
Frank Sinatra attacks. It's too big and too small, John.
This is a Main Hustle Media podcast.
Virtual Reality Studios. A new realm of creativity.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to Matcha, Masala, and Murder. Blended besties, spilling the tea. I am one of your co-hosts, your Sir Auntie, Sharmane Fury, and I am joined as always by...
I am Rhia Mayako.
We're coming to the end of this season.
Yeah,
we got this and one more episode, and then we're done, and then we're gonna take a wee break. So I have to squeeze in two things because this is my last time to do the intro. I have to kind of try to squeeze in two things before we get into your story today. So apologies if I take a lot of time. I hope I won't. But do you want to bump mug chat up early, because you mentioned last week that we should probably do that so our tea doesn't get cold? But if we bump mug chat up early, I can tell you a story about a weird murder connected to my mug.
Okay, nice. Also, I love that it's taken us to nearly the end of season 2 to realize that if we don't do mug chat soon, then our tea goes cold.
Tea is cold. Like, come on. Like, we're just amateur hour. Like, we're both established podcasters that are doing all amateur shit on this show. I don't understand it. But yeah, do you have a mug chat?
Yes, I do. Thanks so much for asking. I have got a big guy for you today. Yeah, it's got a little curvy ridge here, which is nice. It's really good. It's a nice holder. This is from the this is like an iconic British design from an iconic British pottery. So this is from a company called Burley, which is based in Staffordshire, which has been going since 1851. And this design is called Calico. They do other designs. And this is actually this actually didn't get produced until I think the 50s or maybe the 60s, but it was based on an old Victorian design. And everything is still handmade. And so, but the reason I just love this pattern is because when I was growing up, I don't know, we had a couple of bowls in this pattern, like for cereal, and so I just remember them as like really, really early memories. And so then Alex bought me this cup, which does have a saucer, a really nice big saucer as well, but I'm not using that just now. And so that was really sweet because it really reminds me of being a little kid. But now it's just a nice.
I love it.
It's nice. So with a little bit of history. So there you go.
Excellent. I dig it. Okay, mine is stupid. I just want to tell you before we get going that mine is stupid.
Gotcha.
So this is a mug I've actually wanted to get for years, like literal years. But every time I am about to put it in like my Etsy cart or something like that, I'm like, this is stupid. I can't get this. So I'm walking down the hallway the other day, and so in Mexico, everybody, like Mexicans, called me Sharmane, and I just started to like adopt it. Like the way I would just introduce myself as Sharmane when I was in Mexico, which is so weird because I'm sensitive about my name. I just adapted to it because that's how they put the emphasis on this. The second to the last syllable is where they put that. So Sharmane. So now Shay, who I live with, calls me Sharmane. And so now she's taken to just like, if she hears me shuffling around the hallway, like going to the bathroom or something like that, she'll just yell out Sharmane. And I'm like, yes. And then she puts her hand out of her room holding something, and she's like, we have like this new love language unlocked thing. One, she has discovered that she loves buying me gifts because she loves the reactions. And I have always loved receiving gifts, but I've never had the kind of relationships where people give me gifts. I'm always the gift giver.
Yeah.
So we're accidentally unlocking two love language things, whatever you want to call those stupid things. Because of it. So she'll just go, Sharmane, and then I'll go, yes, and I'll stand by her door, and she'll pop her hand out and she'll just have something. And one of those days, it was the Lionel Richie, hello.
Is it tea you're looking for?
And I cannot tell you how bad I have wanted this stupid ass mug for so long, but could not, like, as many
It's
mugs as
all
I buy.
I ever wanted.
Yeah. I can't believe I missed that. So yeah, so now I have the hello, is it tea you're looking for mug.
I approve. I have also coveted this mug in years gone by, and because it pops up every now and again, it feels like every couple of years it does the rounds again.
I've seen it as like a teapot. I've seen the whole thing or whatever. But so this made me go, you know what? I know there's a lot of murders and stuff that are associated with like Motown and things like that. You know, like Marvin Gaye's dad killed him and all this other kind of stuff, Sam Cooke, all this stuff. So I was like, I wonder if there's any murders tied to Lionel Richie. And I just typed it into the Googles. Are there any murders tied to Lionel Richie? Like literal, talk about crowbarring a story into a thing. It fucking is, but it's not what you think.
Okay.
In Wales, a teenager was locked up for life for killing a 45-year-old man in a row about a Lionel Richie song that was played at his granddad's funeral. Corey Thomas, 19 years old, stabbed Andrew Mell, 45, 18 times with a kitchen knife after the pair clashed over a Lionel Richie song.
Which
so for whatever reason, okay, so crazy and stupid.
Yeah.
But a man is dead. So like, to be fair, a man's fucking dead.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, can I tell you, like if you put the pieces together of like what ultimately killed Tristan, like it is a health issue. Like he had a blood clot and it led to his heart, you know, and everything like that. But like the triggering events that led to the blood clot seem so stupid. You know, like he fell, and the injury from the fall is what led to the blood clot. And I would sit here after he died, and I'd be like, he would sit here and be like, this is so fucking stupid. Like, because he was complaining about the way he fell the whole time. And like, it was a stupid, like ultimately kind of a stupid way to die. And I could hear him talking about how stupid it was. This is also like that. It's just stupid.
Yeah.
But a man is dead.
Yeah.
So for whatever reason, and I can't find any reason to justify this, that the 19-year-old and the 45-year-old are just hanging out, listening to music and drinking.
Right.
And you'll have to tell me how to say this town name. Aberdare?
Aberdare. Yeah.
Aberdare. Okay.
Yeah.
And for whatever, so again, I don't know why a 19-year-old is hanging out with a 45-year-old and they're just like listening to music or whatever. They met at a kebab shop.
Okay.
I don't fucking know. Like, whatever. Okay, fine. So they're like smoking cigarettes and listening to music, and they're drinking, they're getting drunk or whatever. And then when Lionel Richie's song, I forget which one, like
what if
a song starts playing, and so you know, Andrew starts taking the piss out of the song, and Corey says, no, my granddad, this is an important song to my granddad. He used to play it all the time. I love this song. It makes me think of my granddad, and my granddad died and we played it at his funeral. And so I guess Andrew might have still kept making jokes, and he like switched the record, and the kid was not having it. And for whatever reason, he just fucking goes off. They start fighting, arguing or whatever. And then there's a kitchen knife nearby, and he fucking just stabs the dude 18 times.
Sheesh.
So what a weird way to explain my little mug, tie it to the thing. But he kept saying, I just started fighting and I couldn't stop myself. And and they just kept going at it. because everybody kept going, why'd you have to kill him for the song?
Yeah.
And his whole thing was that he felt that he was taking the piss out of his grandfather.
Yeah. You're disrespecting my grandfather.
So he must just loved his grandfather so much that he was just like, you can't say shit.
It sounds to me like he had some issues though, right? And he was drunk. And
yeah, he's drunk. He's 19, hanging out with a 45-year-old, all that kind of stuff. And so he did kind of, when he like ran out of the place or whatever, he did kind of say, and this is, I think, what got him is that he kind of said, I just murdered somebody. Ha ha ha. I just murdered somebody and laughed about it. Ha ha ha. Like he's quoted as that. And so like,
okay.
Yeah, he got picked up for it. It's not a premeditated murder. It's completely it's complete. Like I would assume you would classify this as like crime of passion.
Crime of passion, yeah. A little stab wound.
I don't know if Lionel is aware.
I was gonna say, do you think Lionel knows?
I looked for all these articles and
him.
Yeah, like I looked in like the Cardiff News and the Wales Online and the Daily Mail even had it. Like there's a lot of UK based things that had it, but no one talked about whether or not. I don't know why. Like to me, as a non-journalist who wants to kind of think journalistically, I would be like, it would be a weird thing, but I would definitely try to get in touch with Lionel's people.
Yeah, they must have done, and he just probably was like, I'm not touching that with a barge pole. Like I'm not commenting on that at all.
Right.
Oh no. So we've got these biscuits like cookies. And they are called rich tea, and they're like a round biscuit. They're really bland. And they're not fancy, not posh, nothing like exciting going on here. There's no chocolate, there's no good, they're not even that sweet, nothing. They're like really, really basic. And a lot of people really fucking hate them. And a lot of people find them really nostalgic for, days gone by. They're really good for dunking in tea, and they are called rich tea. And so that is another thing that quite often in conjunction with the hello, is it tea you're looking for? You get Lionel rich tea because they're called rich tea biscuits.
I wish I had them just for this purpose.
So if you get some rich tea with your mug, then it's
all over, right? So I'll have to check because I can get some like British items like that too. So I'll have to check. But yeah, so I'm happy to report at least that I finally have this mug that is just like the giggle every time. It's just giggles. So I just fucking love it. It's so stupid. Plus, because we're both mustache lovers.
Yeah, I know. He's rocking.
I did spill. I'm tired. Full disclosure, I'm tired. So I didn't sleep last night. It's whatever. So I spilled there. I also spilled my orange juice. So,
we're going.
That's what today's like. That's what today's like.
It's one of those days.
Okay. But I also have a Sharmane Suggests, which is true crime, but based on true crime, but not murder. So, yeah. I really fucking love that thing.
I'm so happy we like really lent into that because I went.
We did like.
I wish we had a theme tune, and then I was like, I'm gonna make a theme tune.
I'm gonna do it. Yeah, you did such a good job. I love it. It's goofy. It's nerdy. It makes me happy, and I have played it for no reason because it's sitting on my computer, and I'll just be like. Dun, 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 dun. Okay, so one of the big things that I'm trying to do now is that I'm hearing in the States and stuff like that is I'm a person that needs a routine because if I don't have a routine, I'm pretty much just a blob. And I think I gave myself a lot of blob time. I think after my husband's death, it was fair that I didn't try to have too much of a routine, so I can deal with grief. And I'm at a place now where like grief just exists. It's not going away, but I don't want to lay in bed all day, every day. I need a bit of a routine. So I've been trying to do things that I used to do in my US life that I didn't necessarily do in my Mexico life. Just to try to, I don't expect to, go back to normal, like whatever. I don't expect to like get past it, you know, stuff like that. Like all the language that we use in grief discussions is so lacking, you know, for everything like that. So going forward, I just expect to be fully changed, a slightly different person, you know, or whatever. But there are certain activities that make me feel like, quote, like myself, I guess. And one of those is driving. It was actually kind of difficult for me the last year in Mexico not driving, because I'm very much tied to being the driver in my family and stuff like that. So that was that was a thing that kind of unsettled me while I was there, like not, never driving, stuff like that. So I've been driving my friend's car when I feel like I can go outside, and I've been here almost a month now. I've been outside like 4 or 5 times. But one of my other big activities, and whether I did this solo or with Tristan, it was a constant for me, and it was going to movies, because I'm a movie person. I fucking went to I fucking went to movie school, people. I went to film school. I've made a couple films. I've worked on films and stuff like that. But I'm one of those people that, even though I've done a lot of time in the industry, the movie magic hasn't been lost on me.
Yeah.
Suspension of disbelief is every time I give it, and stuff like that. So here we have these AMC movie theater chains that have this package that's like 3 movies a week for every week of the month for like $25. It's not bad at all.
Yeah.
And given how expensive everything else is, the fact that this has remained $25 is like, I'm just so excited about that. But so I decided to sign back up for it, because it was something like I would go to a movie by myself on a drop of a hat. I'm never a person that is uncomfortable being alone. I'll go to dinner by myself. I'll take up a whole table. I don't fucking care. I'll go to the movies by myself. I like to be alone usually. It's just now in this new phase of life, these regular things where I used to do alone all the time, I'm like nervous or uncomfortable about doing it, or just assuming I'm going to get kidnapped, which is like, why is that a fear I have now? I never had that fear before. It's so weird.
But didn't we start off this whole show on like episode 1 talking about fear of getting kidnapped? So I like, that's a good tie-in.
That is fair too, because I would text people and be like, I'm in this parking garage or whatever. But that was usually when I was like heavy tilt into my like podcast listening and stuff, but it would go away and come back. But now I'm literally expecting to be trafficked at all times. Maybe it's the news cycle, I don't fucking know. But I also just think like, don't let people know that you're a widow, because then they'll know you're a target, and then I'll just turn around and like blurt out in public that like my husband died or some shit. Like, I did it in front of a friend once, and she was like, don't tell people, like, what are you doing? Like, she was glad she was with me and stuff. And I was like, I don't know why I did it. It just came out. But so I started going to movies, and I've gone to 3 movies in the last 2 weeks, or a week and a half or so. And I feel like it feels like a kind of normal moment. I feel like, plus I drive to it, like the whole thing, like it's capturing a few things. And I stumbled upon a small movie that didn't have many shows. It literally had like 1 show a day. It's about to go out and stuff like that. But it is exactly like, it's a Sharmane movie, basically. Big time. And it's called Wicked Little Letters.
Oh yeah.
Yes, it's starring the like fucking amazing, everybody should love her at all times for everything, Olivia Colman. In terms of skill set, like I don't know anything about her as a person. I hope she doesn't turn out to be a problematic person, because at this point fucking everybody's coming out as problematic. But I hope she's not. But I love her as an actress, at least that. A person who I've never seen before called Jessie Buckley, and it's basically the story about a real life fraud thing that happened, I want to say in like the 20s or so, or maybe earlier than that, where this like not rich but more educated woman befriends this like poor off the streets type person. They end up being neighbors. But the older, or she's not actually older. She's played older in the movie, but in real life, they were actually contemporaries. She's a spinster. She still lives with her family and stuff like that, or whatever. And I think she's just probably fucking bored or whatever. And she has a fallout with this friend, this next door neighbor friend. So she starts writing these really graphic, naughty letters to herself. As this other person, or blames it on her. And it just goes into this big old problem in the town where they want to arrest her for being lewd, and it goes to court and the whole thing. Eventually she also writes letters to other towns members and stuff like
Yes.
that too, and she's just basically swearing and just talking naughty and all kinds of stuff or whatever. And it's so stupid and weird, and to be true, it's also just like, I fucking love this. But as a movie, they took a little bit of license in that they just casted how they casted. So some people are played by people of color that aren't people of color in real life story. They did change the names of some people, but not everybody. And ultimately the through line of the story is still there, that, you know, this slightly more educated person than the other wrote these naughty letters. But she had very extravagant handwriting. So how her family didn't know it was her the whole time, I don't understand, but okay, fine. But yeah, ultimately this woman was about to go to prison. Like, she had kids, she had a family and everything like that, and she was about to go to prison. But it comes out that no, it's actually this other woman who was the victim, the first victim.
Yeah.
And it was played so well by the actors that did it. It's one of those things that it's a surprise it's real because of the movie, like, because it's so comical / like that's some real shit. You were about to put someone in prison for like labor camp prison, you know.
It's such a like when you find, when you know that it's true, then I'm just like, yeah, of course. Like, this is why Britain as a country has got like a ridiculous reputation, because of course shit like that happened.
Like, you're just a bored white woman who decided to like just write some naughty letters and let like someone get in trouble. But also like the fact that, and this is prior to the vote, it's during suffrage, it's prior to the voting rights and stuff like that. And so just women were disregarded in general. There is one police woman.
Yeah.
They literally call her woman police officer Moss. And they have to say the whole thing the whole time. Like, it's so stupid. But she ultimately just, like a dog with a bone, she just doesn't believe that the person who gets arrested is the person, and she gets it sorted. She wasn't supposed to, because she was a police woman and not a policeman. She had her place. She's supposed to make tea or whatever. But to this day, there's still a plaque that honors that woman because of her police work and everything like that. And it's a small town, goofy crime of fraud that ended up turning out to be this like really adorable fucking movie. I just love it. But it was down to like one show a day. So I watched it on the very last day it was available to watch in the entire city that I live in. I had to drive like 17 miles to go, but I was gonna go. Like, as soon as I saw the trailer, I'm like, I'm going to this fucking movie. I gotta go. So
because it was out here a while ago. So that's good.
Yeah,
I'm glad that you saw
and
it.
I hadn't heard about it because I hadn't been paying attention, but because I had just signed back up. So the first movie I went to go see was Gojira versus Kong. Yes, I don't call Gojira the other thing. I get it, but it's Gojira to me, which is great. I loved it. It was fun. I like that they're kind of doing serious Gojira movies, but I also like the camp of Gojira. So like, it's fine. They can do whatever, and I don't care. I enjoyed it. And then I saw the trailer. That's what set me down the path. And then I was like, I gotta find this movie. And it was like 17 miles away. And I'm like, yeah, fuck it, let's go. And then yesterday I saw the Guy Ritchie movie, the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare.
Oh yeah, I actually don't know anything about this because I didn't even realize that was happening. Okay, tell me.
So that's a true, and maybe it came out here first or something like that. I don't know. Even though Guy Ritchie is a British director, I think he has clout here, so he might have gotten a release here first. But it's Henry Cavill, it's all kind of stuff. And it's about a story that took place that no one knew about in history until the Winston Churchill private documents were opened up in 2016. And so basically it's a tale, like, so the recommend is Wicked Little Letters. If you have it, if you can download it, go fucking watch it. It is
Yeah,
a crime movie, although it's
second
not
that.
a murder. But it was so fun, and I can't wait to have it so that I can just rewatch it over and over, because it's the kind of movie that I would rewatch over and over again.
Definitely. And it's kind of like a comfort sort of thing, like, because the
Yes.
way it's set and the
Yeah.
time period, you know, there's a lot to, you know, it's almost like watching an Agatha Christie.
Yes.
You know, it's got those vibes, hasn't it? So
it did do something to me where it's like, it kind of reminded me of the Kate Webster story, where it's just like, so they made the poor girl an Irish girl, but she wasn't. She was a local from the town at that time, but they made her Irish, and then they like played into it where like Olivia Colman's character would be like, well, you know, you could forgive her, you know, like you could forgive her, you know, because she's Irish or something like that.
Yeah.
But you know, she cut, like, the reason why it was so easy to target her is because she cussed, she was kind of provocative a little bit. There was a question as to whether or not her first child was her husband's child and not somebody else's child, and you know, all kinds of stuff, whatever. And there's people that are left out of the movie that were in the real story, like her sister lived with her, and maybe her sister's child is her husband's child, who knows, you know, things like that. So there's more cheek in the real story, actually. But the way they did it for the movie was very sweet and funny. You know, it's one of those films, kind of like what's that movie called with Hugh Grant? It's like he went up a hill but came down a mountain.
Oh, The Englishman who went up a hill but came down a mountain.
Like, it's one of those kind of movies where it's just like,
yeah.
it's funny, but it's based off a real story. But the story itself is so silly that you're just like, I can't believe this. Like,
that's another one.
History. But I love it. You know, I still say stuff from that movie, and I haven't seen it probably in almost 30 years. Like, you know,
I went know
that I'm tough and stuff like that. You know,
oh my god.
And, you know, stuff like that. It's like one of those kinds of movies where you could just like watch it. Cold Comfort Farm, you know, like just these like small story movies, but they have like these things. So I really enjoyed it. And if you just like crime stories of any kind, and since we were into the historical crime, I was just like, I really love that, like, calling someone like a nasty smelling pig fat cunt type thing would get you arrested. You know, like, it's so stupid, but I love it. And I guess she did, the actual perpetrator of the letters did end up doing like 9 months of hard labor or whatever. But you know, she also broke a control tie that her father had over her by, you know, she like happily accepted her punishment because once it was out, it was just like, now I'm gonna just start cussing. So I really
get into it.
I really enjoyed it. So
good. Oh, I'm glad. Good recommend.
The Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare was also good. It in Guy Ritchie form, it's like a serious dark tale that's told with some humor and stuff like that too. The casting in it was really, really great. But I guess the story is based off of who they believe Ian Fleming took inspiration from to create Bond. Which I wouldn't necessarily pick up from the story itself, from the movie itself. But they have like this end cap that kind of tells you about the guy a little bit after, and you're like, oh, okay, so he was out there doing things, and like eventually the British government acknowledged that he existed. But there's a period of time that they didn't.
Nice.
But it was pretty good. It was really good. Well casted. Very good.
Nice.
But yeah, that's my suggest. At least the Wicked Little Letters is my suggest. Definitely, if you get a chance, go see that fucking movie, because it's for me, I'm waiting to be able to rewatch it with maybe my hello, is it tea you're looking for mug and a nice cozy blanket, and just rewatch it because it's very cute.
Sounds like a good combo for sure.
So that's all I got.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I am ready. Shall we?
Okay. Let's do it.
Shall I be mother? When this episode airs, as I always say, if we've done our calendar maths correctly, it will be Paranormal Day. Now, I don't know whether this is international or world or
it's kind of
UK
hard
based.
to see on the
I'm not sure, but it says on our calendars that we've been looking at that it will be Paranormal Day. So I thought that I would like to tell you a ghost story.
Okay.
Yes. So turn the lights down low and rewind time all the way back to 1802.
Okay.
And we're going to visit Hammersmith, West London, not too far away from Kate, who we mentioned just a minute ago.
Mm-hmm. I love that we have so many reasons to like harken back to other people that we've talked about.
Good, isn't it?
It has happened quite a bit, and I really enjoy it.
Yeah. Right, let me paint you the scene. A young man has tragically committed suicide. His body was laid to rest in the graveyard of a local church. The community mourned his loss, but some amongst them were disturbed. You see, it was the prevailing custom at the time that you should not bury a suicide victim's body on consecrated ground, i.e. a churchyard, lest their soul be damned to never fall to rest and thereby remain in our realm and haunt us for all eternity.
Okay. Simpler times, man. Simpler
Exactly.
times.
In the year that followed, there were numerous reports of a ghostly apparition. So ghostly stories began to circulate in the area, and especially around this churchyard. And there were, in fact, two reports, two women completely unrelated to each other, just, no connection whatsoever. So there was one really elderly lady and one pregnant lady. And they both reported separate days, separate times, walking past the churchyard and being physically seized by a ghost.
Okay.
And in a terrifying encounter. And sadly, just a couple of days after these incidents, completely unrelated, these two women both died. So the community was in uproar. But it should be pointed out that if you were really elderly and if you were pregnant, you were probably at greater risk of death, especially in like early 1800s London.
Sure.
Medical care wasn't super great. So call me skeptical, but I'm just putting that out there. So the next reported sighting came from a guy called Thomas Groom, and he was a servant to a local brewer. So it's 9 p.m. and he was walking through the churchyard with somebody, a companion, a chap, a friend. And supposedly a ghostly figure rose from behind one of the tombstones and seized him by the throat. So his companion heard some kind of commotion, spun around, couldn't really see what was going on. It's, the dead of night. And so he kind of lashed out with his fists at whatever into the darkness, and claims that he did come into contact with something that could have been a coat. But then there was no one there. So again, make of that what you will.
Okay.
So then we fast forward a little bit through the year, and it's a cold December night. And this is the time of our next reported sighting of this ghostly figure. We've got a chap called William Girdler, and he was actually a night watchman. And he was walking along Beaver Lane. No jokes, please.
Instantly started giggling like a fucking 13-year-old.
I knew you would.
Well, also struggling with my damn sweater because I got cold. Sorry.
It's the chills, you see. It's the ghostly stories, so you're getting chilly.
The ghost is making me chilly.
He saw the figure himself, and he gave chase, hoping to apprehend whatever it was. Though, unfortunately, it escaped, and he didn't manage to capture the ghost. Okay. He later reported, and I quote, "Many people were very much frightened in the local area." So it was a big deal. Everybody was talking about it. At this time, London didn't actually have an official organised police force. So a little side note of history for you. This wouldn't actually be established until 1829, when a reform bill was passed by Sir Robert Peel, giving the green light for a professional, full-time official police force, which was then known as the Peelers in street slang. So kids would run away going, "Shit, the Peelers!"
Why? Because they peeled you off the street? Like, what's
they belonged to Sir Robert Peel. He was the guy who set up. So they were the
brain's
Peelers.
not working because I got no sleep. Okay.
And incidentally, interestingly, just another aside, Glasgow was actually the first city in the UK to have an organised police crime force. So even before London. So just thought I'd let you know that. Anyway, back to our story. So Mr. Girdler decided that the only way to deal with this situation and calm the fears of the community was to organise a band of local men to make armed patrols in the hopes of apprehending whatever it was that was scaring people. So as we move into the new year, we're now...
Were they thinking they were going to arrest the ghost? Or like Ghostbuster the ghost?
I couldn't speak to their state of mind at this time.
Because I'm assuming they like thought it was a real ghost.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Okay.
So
just asking questions.
You know, yeah, well, quite. It's a reasonable thing to do. So as we roll into 1804. And it's the 3rd of January, and the men were making their usual patrols so far. So from the 29th of December to the 3rd of January, no luck so far. It's around 10:30 p.m. and Girdler bumped into one of the other patrolmen, and this guy was called Francis Smith. And they were now on the corner of Beaver Lane, which is also not something to be sniggered at. So Smith was a 29-year-old excise officer, and he was armed with his shotgun. Smith and Girdler agreed that at 11 o'clock they would meet. So it was basically, you do a lap that way, I'll do a lap this way, we'll meet up at the end. And then they would, carry on their search together for the rest of the evening. Before they could kind of reconvene, Francis Smith bumped into Thomas Millward, who is a local bricklayer. And they were on Black Lion Lane, which is called that because there was a Black Lion pub on this lane. So at the time, bricklayers wore white. So they would be dressed, he would have been wearing like a white linen shirt and a kind of a flannel oatmeal kind of coloured waistcoat or vest for the US audience.
So funny. But like 4 or 5 times since we've done that episode, it's come up in like things I've watched, and I'm like, I've never picked up on it before, and now I'm seeing it happening all the time. It's that everywhere. Like confirmation bias thing. But yeah, like 4 or 5 times since that episode.
So he's wearing his waistcoat and a white apron. Now, basically, he was at his sister's house for the evening, and I think she'd given him dinner and whatever, and he was leaving her house, and he's walking down the lane, and she can actually hear the altercation which follows because it's quite loud and she can just hear it from her house. It's late at night, so it would have been pretty quiet. Basically, Smith shouts, upon encountering Millward, he shouts, "Damn you, what are you? I'll shoot you." And before Millward can even respond, he shoots him.
No, come on. You've never seen a dude in a uniform before?
So he shot him in the jaw, which proved to be a fatal blow, and he died pretty instantly. So hearing the gunshot, Girdler, who is, as we know, kind of round about the area, and 2 other guys raced to the scene, and they described Smith as, quote, very much agitated. So so a constable arrived. So again, not formal police, but the constable arrived at the scene and takes Smith into custody. A surgeon takes the body to the pub to examine the body.
Might as well.
And and the surgeon, who was called Mr. Flower, he concluded, quotes, a gunshot wound on the left side of the lower jaw with small shot about size number 4, one of which penetrated the vertebra of the neck and injured the spinal marrow. So it went through his jaw into his spine, dead. Yeah. So there was a trial at the Old Bailey, the big courts, where Francis Smith was accused with what was being called willful murder, in quotes. Sure. And the victim's wife made a statement, and she basically said, I already warned him not to go wandering about in his white outfit because someone might mistake him for a ghost. I told him to wear a coat, but he would go about his business.
Mistake him for a ghost.
Well, because that's what was happening. So she said, I don't know whether I need to read this whole big thing. She said, on Saturday evening, he and I were at home, for he lived with me. He said he had frightened 2 ladies and gentlemen who were coming along the terrace in a carriage. The man said that he dared to say, there goes a ghost. And so basically he's already scared some people. So she was like, put a bloody coat on next time, because you know there's ghosts going around these parts and you don't want to be mistaken. But she didn't realize, obviously, that this would be the upshot. So our victim's Millward's sister testified because she heard the whole thing from, the doorway. And she said that basically he said, stop or I'll shoot you. But then he just instantly shot. He didn't even wait for any kind of response, which and
I know everybody's clutching their pearls at a cop just fucking shooting somebody. Goddamn.
Sure. So there were a number of good character witnesses on his behalf, but ultimately it wasn't enough because he'd done the deed. So the judge, who was Lord Chief Baron Sir Archibald MacDonald,
I love the name Archibald.
Love it. He told the jury, when considering this case, that malice is not required for murder, merely the intent to kill. So this was an important distinction that he was making.
That seems like a precedent setting.
So this is where we're getting to. So he gave some all killing, he said, whatever amounts to murder, unless justified by the law or in self-defense, in some cases involuntary acts, or some sufficiently violent provocation, it becomes manslaughter then. Not one of these circumstances occur here, he said. So we're not talking manslaughter, like this is a murder charge, and that's what you have to consider. So the judge was saying that Smith hadn't acted in self-defense. He hadn't shot him by accident. He hadn't been provoked at all. And Millward hadn't actually done anything wrong. So, yeah. And even if he had been a person pretending to be a ghost and frightening people, that's not a serious felony. Possibly a misdemeanor at best, which could have incurred a small fine for sort of antisocial behavior. But he wasn't going about doing that anyway. So there was literally no provocation that could justify him having been shot. So after only an hour of deliberations, the jury is returned and they brought back a verdict of manslaughter. But the judge just said, I can't accept that because, for all the aforementioned reasons. He said the court cannot receive such a verdict. They must either find him guilty of murder or acquit him. The fact that Smith believed that this was a ghost didn't count and was irrelevant, but the jury was trying to kind of make it a bit relevant, but he was like, it's just not, it doesn't wash.
So they're just not doing their job properly.
Yeah. So he had to be quite stern with them. Now, if they find him guilty of murder, that would be death by hanging and then dissection. So that would have been the punishment. In any case, the judge was planning that they should return the verdict of murder because that's what happened. But he was planning to take it to the king, the actual king, to have the sentence commuted so it could be reduced because even though it was definitely murder, he was taking into account the circumstances. And he actually, this is what happened. So he gets charged with murder. The sentence is passed, which has to be passed, that it has to be death by hanging and then dissection. The judge takes to the king, who does commute the sentence, and he is sentenced to 1 year's hard labor. So that's what he got for the crime. But there is just one thing unanswered. Was it an actual ghost causing all of that trouble? I hear you ask, because, it had to be, surely. No, not so. It was just John.
It was just John, wasn't it?
John,
I knew it was just going to be John.
Yeah.
So how did I
know? John Graham, to be exact.
Okay.
So much publicity had been surrounding this ghost up until this point, and then obviously with this major trial, that he felt compelled to come forward and confess that actually he had been pretending to be a ghost this whole time. And he was an elderly shoemaker, which sounds like something from a Hans Christian Andersen story. He was an elderly shoemaker who literally put on a white sheet to scare his apprentice, because his apprentice had been telling ghost stories to his children and scaring them, and he wanted to get his own back. So this was just a workplace prank that had disastrous
Frank Sinatra attacks. It's too big and too small, John.
And so he did come forward, and but he was never punished or charged with anything.
Interesting.
So you really
because
can't
he
make
put his
this
hands on somebody's neck, right? So there should have at least been like assault.
Yeah, I mean, if every account was true, this is the thing,
fair.
isn't it? Because
Fair.
they thought it was a ghost, and I don't know. I'm not entirely sure that every one of them has been verified.
Okay, that's fair.
But who knows? But yes, quite possibly he actually did, genuinely really scare some people. So
great.
That should be the end of this case, except to say there's one more important part of this case, which is that if we jump forward 180 years to 1984.
Sure.
So for more than a century, this point had been disputed about the legal precedent of this. Is it self-defense if you've misinterpreted the circumstances, kind of thing? So there was a case called R.V. Williams, and basically what happened was a guy goes out into the street and he sees two people, a big man and a youngish teenager. And the big man is dragging the teenager along the street, and the teenager is screaming out for help. So this guy goes over, clocks the big guy to help the little guy out. But it turns out the little lad was actually a thief, and the big guy was apprehending him. And so it was a he misconstrued the situation and the circumstances, but he did severely injure the big guy in trying to help out the small guy. So this was another case where he had misunderstood the circumstances, and what could he then be charged with, and could it be taken into account that it was a mistake? And so he was actually convicted of actual bodily harm, but they used this case to make an actual ruling and set a precedent, because the guy was allowed to appeal, but then the conviction was quashed. And then there was another one in 1988, which was also really similar. And these two cases form the basis of the law we now have, which is the Criminal Justice and Immigration Act 2007, Article 76, which says that someone can be held liable for their actions, even if they were the consequence of a mistaken belief.
Mm-hmm.
So, i.e., that they thought the person they were killing was a ghost. You can still get done for that.
Who knew that was going to be how you got a precedent set?
And the final thing in this story is, I feel like Columbo, there's just one more thing. That should have been the end of the Hammersmith ghost, but he was frequently seen and reported up until 1824, in fact, at which point he could now apparently breathe fire. So he has really taken on this legendary status. Reported sightings, however, died down when a chap called Spring-Heeled Jack burst onto the scene and into the nightmares of Londoners everywhere. But that is a tale for another day.
A cliffhanger that can only go for at least another season away. Wow.
So there you have it.
So I have heard about roughly this story, not all the details of it, but I heard about a shoemaker that was pretending to be a ghost. I definitely have part of that story in my head.
Nice.
And me being the true believer that I am, obviously I thought it was a ghost the whole time.
Sure, yeah.
But I love that, like, something so stupid as a prank just became a whole problem.
Right. And then changed the course of law in this country.
Right. And like 100 and something years later, it's like, oh, we should pay attention to this precedent that got set. That's so wild. I mean, at the heart of it, what's sad, like, this fucking guy died and all he was doing was coming off of work, which seems amazing to me. Like, don't other people have this same uniform?
Yeah.
You would jump to the conclusion that it was a ghost first?
Yeah. I think it's the power of suggestion, isn't it? The fact that you're hopped up, it's late at night, you're on patrol, you've got your shotgun, you're definitely going to save the day. All of these things combined, I just think it's a powerful recipe, and like you say, someone in law enforcement getting drunk on a bit of power and making rash decisions in the spur of the moment.
What a shock. Yeah.
So even back then, those sorts of mistakes occurred.
It's an interesting discussion, though, to use a precedent like that. I mean, obviously different time or whatever, but the idea of, like, you don't have all the facts and you made a decision that, and inevitably changed the course of somebody's life,
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, I think it is an important thing to have established, but it's risky, right? Because given the circumstance, you would think you were saving a teen, a smaller kid or whatever. But should it have occurred to him first to be like,
what's going on?
What's happening here? Or
Yeah.
something like that. Like, that seems to be, and maybe in hindsight, but
sure.
Maybe his like protective dad vibes type thing just kicked in, and he saw child in need or whatever.
I suppose the thing is, maybe he could have intervened in a way which didn't injure the person.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if you're commanding enough, you could at least garner attention into the thing. So just be like, wait, what's happening here?
Yeah.
And then being loud enough that other people around can also get in, intervene. And then maybe you just have like, okay, let's just calm down, everybody. Stand here. You tell me what's going on. You tell me what's going on. And then in the meantime, someone calls the police or something, something like that or whatever.
Yeah. Totally.
And I've seen versions of this, and I don't have all the things, but it triggered a memory of a story of something that happened where a guy seemed to be following a woman or something like that through New York, I think. And she starts yelling like, get away from me, stop following me, or whatever. And then people started to intervene, and the guy kept saying, I'm just walking, like, and she's like, that's not true. You've been following me for blocks and blocks and blocks. And so all these, because she was loud and because other people were loud, like I think a woman was the first person to come to her defense. A whole bunch of people converged on the spot and basically held the situation at bay until the guy actually did get scared enough to go away. And I think he did have ill intent because of the way he ended up leaving. But up until then, he was trying to convince the group that wasn't the case. But what was amazing, the reason why this story popped into my head at all, or why it even became news, is because the people that surrounded the woman to look after her, it was like a Muslim woman in a hijab, like a skinny, tiny white dude, a big old black dude. Like it was like people from all different races, cultures, and whatever. And they all jumped in and were like, until we know what's going on, everybody stay put, kind of a thing. And then the guy did kind of run off or something like that. And like that was a thing that it could have gone it could have gone south, but enough people got involved and just held it at bay until a resolution came. And that, probably could have been a better situation. I mean, at least the second guy didn't die, but he was hurt. It's interesting. My heart is always like half in, half out sometimes when it comes to certain laws, especially like, criminal things, just because of the personal experiences I've had, negative experiences that I've had with the police, and just what seems to happen a lot in my country, at least. But I think everywhere, that like, I get using it as a precedent to create a new law to protect, but at the same time, like, I don't know. It's always scary when you're like adding more, like, I don't know. Like I definitely have mixed feelings about it, but it's intriguing. And also like how crazy if you're in modern times and you're convicted on something and you're just like, all because of a fucking fake ghost. Like I'm convicted.
It's bad enough that we're going back, over 100 years to find the precedent for this, but then the freaking precedent is a ghost. This is unbelievable.
And kind of like with the wicked little letters as being like writing dirty letters was like both fraudulent but also criminal on its own, like because it would have been criminal if it wasn't fraudulent, right? Like there's just some weird things and that can be illegal. It's just like, why?
But then I like that the judge was like, even if he had been pretending to be a ghost, like that's not really illegal. I mean, a slap on the wrist, maybe a little fine for being a bit disruptive. Even the judge was like, it's not so bad. It's just a bit of hijinks.
Right. Like, because at the end of the day, what's the worst thing that could happen?
Well,
if someone's just pretending to be a ghost.
Turns out the worst thing that could happen is that you might get shot for not being a ghost. But so when I saw that it was Paranormal Day, I was like, okay, I don't want to. There's obviously oh my goodness. I mean, just don't even bother
Yeah,
Googling these things because it's
is
just
a
a
lot.
whole can of worms. So I was like, no, I need to get an actual like crime story that's
And this
proper.
one's
That's,
a
that's
little
a proper crime
lighthearted.
story. Yeah.
Even though someone dies, it's lighthearted enough
Yeah.
because there are some grotesque things done in the name of like
Exactly.
paranormal
Yeah.
criminality and stuff like that. So,
Yeah. So no,
you know,
I thought we'll go down, we'll go this way. This seemed more like our vibe as well.
yeah,
I was like, it's an old story and it's a bit ridiculous.
it's so ridiculous.
And
I
it's
love it.
really, really indicative of its time as well, the way
Yeah.
it was handled and dealt with. So I thought
I
this
also
was
love that yet again, because we surprise each other with their stories and we don't talk about anything in advance, that we seem to always fall on the same page in like these weird roundabout ways. Like I pulled this old, this movie about an
that's
old
what I was
crime
thinking. Yeah.
that is so quaint. Like it's a crime, but it's quaint. And
Yeah.
then you end up telling a story that's an
I
old
know.
crime that is quaint,
Because
but
as you were
somebody
talking
fucking
about it,
died,
yeah,
you
as you were
know.
talking about it, I was thinking like, oh, this fits well. Like, thank
So
you
I
very
don't
much.
know what it is about us. Like
Could it
because
be
I
a
keep
paranormal link between us?
like
On
I
Paranormal Day?
because people like my friends who've watched us and stuff like that have commented on us having like really good chemistry and things like
Yeah.
that. And I was like, it's more than that though, because there's like a weird in syncness that you
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
have. We're on two different continents. We have not met in meet space yet. We've only known
Mhm.
each other. Like I think we're coming up on a year
Yeah,
of
yeah.
knowing each other, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So we haven't even like necessarily gone a full year. Like I think we've
Mhm.
just about met like around this time
Yeah, that sounds
a year
right.
ago, and here we are a whole year into the future. And we're telling stories, but we're like linked in this weird way
Yeah.
where sometimes our shit just lines up. And I don't know. I dig it. I don't understand it. It's weird, but I love it.
And we can still laugh about, Lionel Richie puns.
And Lionel Rich, like fucking yeah, and that's another stupid way that someone just got killed. Like it's like over a fucking
Oh,
song, and just like
yeah.
this is stupid. But
It is really
it happened, and
and
like
this is our life. This is what we do with our time.
this is what we decided to do. Like, I'm gonna tell you a stupid tale about how somebody was killed.
And I'm like, wait, I've got one better. So there's this old shoemaker, right?
One upping. You think yours is stupid? I got a stupid one for you. It's so funny.
Totally.
But I'm so strongly getting Prank Sinatra vibes.
Yeah,
With Winston Bishop. And I've been
absolutely.
I've been rewatching that a lot lately,
Yay.
Comfort
Yeah.
Show because I'm
It's
back in the
total
States and
comfort
stuff.
show, yeah.
And I mean, Winnie the Bish is just there's
AKA
no
Brown
one like him.
Lightning.
Brown Lightning. There's no one like him.
AKA.
AKA. Oh,
He's
I
so
love it.
good.
That's on a mug. Somebody made an art. And it's just like it's like a silhouette drawing, and you can tell it's him or whatever. And it's like AKA. So that's a mug that I'm gonna have to
I
add
love
to my.
it when he phones and they have to leave the message for Cece to tell her that Schmidt has broken up with Fawn, and he's like, Schmidt dumped Fawn like a bad habit. He like phones her up and does it in like 30
It's
seconds.
like it's your girl Winston. It's your girl Winnie the Bish.
Winnie the Bish. And then afterwards, Jess is like, that was amazing. He's like, I was so nervous.
But what I love about
so
it is that it harkens back to another episode where Winston is just freakishly good on the phone.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So they lace this stupid stuff
good.
throughout, and it's like always a through line. And yet here he was being nervous, but he just nailed the
you
fucking.
better get while the getting's good.
I love it. I love Winston. Yeah, I don't want anything. I don't want to find out anything bad about him. I've seen him live before. There used to be this event I used to go to every month called Smart, Funny, and Black, which was hosted by Amanda Seales. And it was like a competition to see like who was Black excellence. She always had different Black actors, singers, all kinds of stuff. And one time I was going, it was supposed to be two other people, but they didn't show. And at the last minute, Damon Wayans Jr. and Lamorne Morris showed up. So they were competing in the thing.
Oh, funny.
It was so much fucking fun.
Yeah.
The two of them. And while I have
those
heard
Wayans boys get around, huh?
Oh yeah. 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 Damon Jr. has like 9 kids.
I know. There's so many of them.
There's so many Wayans, and each Wayans has too many Wayans.
Yeah.
And it's just there's so many Wayans. I have heard one thing about Lamorne, which is not great. It's not the worst. It's not the worst. It's not great.
Okay. This is the problem, they say never meet your heroes. That's what we always used to get told, right? But nowadays it's like never Google them.
It's literally like never Google. You're like, if I want to like this person. And
Yeah.
at this point, I'm just terrified to be like, oh, I love so-and-so.
I know, because then like in a few months' time, we're going to look so stupid when it turns out they're like a horrific offender of some kind.
Yeah. And it's going to be something terrible, right? Yeah. So
no, we're just gonna say we're pretty neutral about everyone, to be honest.
You're like la 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 la. Tell me when to finish. Anyways, I really enjoyed Fake Ghosts. I love that it was just John.
Just John. So let me tell you, right? Okay, I'm going to tell you. I hope everybody has stayed listening to the end of this episode, because I'm about to reveal big secrets. Right? It's just Dave. Right.
Yes. Dave. Just Dave.
And this was just John. Right.
Yeah.
So there is a joke that I say joke. It's those things that it's just like an in thing that me and my sister had, that I made up this rule that especially in the UK, I don't know, this just seemed common at the time. There's loads of people called John. There's loads of people called Dave. So basically, everybody knows someone called John or called Dave. And invariably, in any friend group, there's probably one of each. So we're talking white people, right? So basically, my rule that I made up was, where there's a John, there's a Dave.
Nice.
And the whole point of where there's a John, there's a Dave is that you could go up to anybody and be like, oh, hey, man, how's it going? And they're like, do I know you? And they're like, yeah, we met at that thing. What thing? John's thing. Or who was there? Or, with Dave. And they would instantly have to believe
hilarious.
Because, thank you. Because everybody knows a John, and that John also knows a Dave, and vice versa. So you could literally crash an entire party and be like, do we know you? Like, yeah, I'm mates with Dave. Which Dave? Dave with John, Dave and John, right. John and Dave. And they're like, yes. It. So this then like grew into this massive thing, which was just really stupid, that we used to do when we would go out, and if you would have to find a John and a Dave who knew each other, and that was like your mission.
Scavenger hunt.
Yeah, exactly, because we're that much fun to go out with. So
hilarious.
So lame, but this is the kind of fun we like to have. And so it would be like, if you could find a John and a Dave, you win, and you win nothing, but you win.
But it's the win. Like, it's the win. I won. Obviously.
And so that's why it's brilliant that I loved it when this story happened, and I was like, oh, of course it's John, right? Just John. Because it's just John. So yeah, where there's a John, there's a Dave. So I invite the audience to go out into the world and find all the Johns and Daves that they can.
So John is a very common name on my British side of the family. There's a John in every generation.
There you go.
And I don't know that we have any Davids, but we do have some David middle names. So that's a possibility. I'll have to dig through. I'm trying to think. Do I know many Daves? I think I know more famous Daves, like not know, but like I'm aware of than no one meet space. Sure. But I know plenty
your Chappelle's, your Matthews. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Like they're there. They're out there. And you're like, do I know a Dave? I know plenty of Johns though.
Well, I bet those guys know Johns. So, they know. Sorted.
And then Denzel has a son named John David Washington.
So that's twofer. That's great.
He's two for the price of one. Yeah, that's funny. I'm gonna start paying attention to that. I don't know. It'll be confirmed in some way, shape, or form. Now. It definitely will be confirmed.
So that's so that's just Dave, and that's just John. So now we've got alas poor Dave, and also like maybe it was just John, the elderly shoemaker. I think that's gonna have to be a thing now.
And then I have fucking Agnes because of my ghost.
Yes, exactly. Ghost. That's right.
My mom's ghost. That's it. Yeah, that's good. John, David, and Agnes. We're coming for you. Well, we got through this one pretty quickly, which is I'm proud of us. We have one more episode left in the season before we go on break. So for everybody out there, don't forget to follow us on the Instagrams, the Tickety Talks, which I know Murica, we're about to quote lose Tickety Talk. Nothing's gonna happen for the first 6 months after it. 4/20, April 20 was the date.
Okay.
that supposedly TikTok was supposed to be banned in the United States.
Right.
It's not banned. It's just that they got 6 months until an American buys the company, which all this seems very, very illegal.
Yeah.
There's gonna be tons of class action lawsuits that pop
Sure.
up. ACLU is gonna get at it, whatever. We still have access to Tickety Talk. So if you're in America, still follow us on the Tickety Talk.
Sure.
And YouTube at Masala. Nope. At Matcha, Masala and Murder. And
Nailed it.
Nailed it. Yeah. I'm super tired today. Also, don't forget to follow us on buymeacoffee.com / Matcha Masala Murder. Buy us a cuppa, first of all, support the show. But also read about the like things that we don't talk about on the show about our little crimes.
Not our crimes. We didn't know.
No, we didn't do it. Allegedly. Not our crimes, but the crimes that we talk about.
So good. And we'll see you next week, and it'll be your story, and I'm excited.
It'll be my story.
And this will be the last in the series, which means it's the last seamless crowbarring we're going to have to do.
Seamless crowbar specialty day. And I'm working between 2 crowbars that I'm just like, I don't know which is the one. My heart will tell me probably the night before. So I'll research both of them and just be like, okay. That's been kind of what happens with me. It's just like where my heart is where the story will tell. But yes, thank you everybody for joining us. And
bye.
Bye.
Matcha and Masala is produced and hosted by Sharmane Fury and Rhia Maya Kaur.
This is a Main Hustle Media production in association with Virtual Reality Studios. All stories are researched to the best of our ability with information freely available to the public.
This podcast is intended for entertainment purposes, and due to the nature of true life crimes, some information remains inaccessible and new information can come to light after recording.